Every time an event happens, people find something to nitpick. Normal gamers get upset we didn't see the most anticipated titles of the year, or how they were expecting a better event in general since companies hype up these showcases like it'll be the best event you've ever watched. And this year, journalists were furious over the fact that there weren't enough women present for them, and a new wave of hit pieces has released saying misogyny is still taking over the gaming industry. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube membership. So the newest hit piece to release is from The Gamer. It says the lack of women at Summer Game Fest points to a bigger problem in the industry. Its lack of women only reinforces gaming's troubling misogyny. I watched all of these Summer Games Fest events, well, at least most of them, the larger ones, and they were all pretty good. Yes, there were a few that failed, like the PC Gaming Showcase, but when I am talking about my issues with some of the events, I'm not talking about the fact that, oh, there wasn't enough representation, there weren't enough women, it was misogynistic. I'm talking about the games themselves, because at the end of the day, that's all that should really matter about these events are the length of trailers, the amount of CGI versus actual gameplay. I mean, there are a slew of different things that we saw that were issues with these events, and of course, these journalists are just clinging to one minor thing. It says Summer Game Fest is a pretty big deal now, especially with the loss of E3. Yes, they decided to cancel E3 for 2023, and we're actually hearing that they're canceling E3 for 2024 and 2025, so it seems like it's kind of done at this point. It is a sad loss for the gaming industry, but it says we've been reporting on the biggest hits from the showcase. I was most impressed with the Xbox presentation, and I actually have to agree with them, and there were plenty of new and highly anticipated games to be seen. What we didn't see, at least at Jeff Keeley's opening ceremony, was a single woman. Now, they are not talking about the fact that throughout all these events, like 75% of the trailers we saw featured women and highlighted the fact that women protagonists are now taking over the gaming industry. Not that that's necessarily a problem, right? I love seeing females in video games, but they're ignoring that in order to push their narrative because, oh, there weren't any real women on stage. They didn't actually have any female presenters, which is problematic. And of course, they're just boiling it down to being, misogynistic. It says host and organizer Jeff Keeley has been criticized for not having any women on stage during the almost 2-hour curtain raiser showcase, in which a number of people were brought on stage for interviews. We saw Nicolas Cage, who talked about Dead by Daylight, Sam Lake talk about Alan Wake 2, Ed Boon talk about Mortal Kombat 1. Yes, they did have quite a few different men, come out, talk about their games, give their, spiel on their new projects, and then move on. It's not like anyone got a bunch of time over anybody else. No. That's not actually what happened, and they're kind of trying to present it that way, that all of these men were made, to be so important, but they are to their franchises, right? There's no point to have a woman come out on stage to present something like Mortal Kombat 1 if you don't know who she is, right? Would you rather have some random female developer or Ed Boon? Would you rather have, some random female or Sam Lake? Would you rather have some random female or Nicolas Cage? They make sense. It's not like they just threw like a random person on stage to present a game. That's not what happened. But of course they say here there were no women to be seen. This was especially jarring when compared with later showcases. Yes, there were quite a few females at other showcases, and Jeff Keeley actually responded to this, right? Because there were initially some sensitive snowflakes who were very furious over this. Before articles from places like The Verge and VGC went up saying, you know, Jeff Keeley dropped the ball when it came to women at Summer Game Fest. You know, there wasn't really anyone talking about this. There wasn't really anybody making an issue of this. But of course, once an article goes up from a outlet like The Verge, their fanboys are going to, you know, go full force into attacking the event. And of course, Jeff saying, you guys did an awful job. Somehow it got worse. In an interview with CBC, Keeley acknowledged that the all-male lineup was fair to criticize, but that a single woman had been due to appear at one point, actress Melanie Liburd, who plays Saga Anderson in Alan Wake 2. She couldn't make it due to a scheduling conflict. That should be a good enough answer, right? He at least tried to get a prominent woman that is featured in this game to come on stage, and it's not his fault that she had a scheduling conflict, right? It's not his fault that she couldn't end up making it at the last minute. That's only really her fault. It's not like they went into this saying there's going to be 0 women, and it's not like they're saying, you know, we specifically didn't want to bring women on stage. He only brought up this one person, but we don't know if they had a list of like 100 people that they wanted to bring on. 50 happened to be women, and none of them were able to go on stage. We're only talking about them highlighting 4 other people on stage in general. So it's not like they were bringing up person after person after person. And I'm not even specifically trying to defend Summer Game Fest or even Jeff Keeley, right? Because I thought that this event was okay. It definitely was not as good as something like the Xbox event, that's for sure. But clearly, this isn't like misogyny coming into play. This isn't misogyny taking over the gaming industry. This is just a simple situation where they tried to, you know, have a woman on stage. She didn't end up showing up, and these people are looking far too much into it, but then they go on to say that this is actually shameful. It says it's a shameful but known fact that the gaming industry is largely a playground for men. I am sick and tired of hearing this narrative. There are plenty of females in video games, whether we are talking about characters or we're talking about the industry with female developers, whether they are writers or designers. It doesn't matter, okay? There are plenty of women in the gaming industry, but of course, this is the narrative that they need to push in order to put out hate pieces like this in order to get hate clicks. And it is pretty pathetic, I guess the best word is, that this is what they're focused on. They're not talking about the fact that half of the trailers weren't actually gameplay trailers and they were just filled with CGI. And there were some games we literally only saw like a flash of a main character and then a logo. That's what you should be talking about, is the substance of these events. But instead, this is what they've decided to complain about. And like I mentioned, you know, this isn't the first article or the only article to go up on this, but another one was from The Verge. It says Summer Game Fest featured no women on stage. For an industry that struggles with diversity, it's a failure to not be inclusive of the women who also make video games. I mean, these people are just so full of themselves. They believe that what they saw was just the final answer, right? Not the fact that they probably did try to get more women, and we know that they tried to get women for this event and none of them could make it. No, this is all they have decided to focus on. For me, I thought that all of the events were pretty fine except for PC Game Showcase, which was just one of the worst events, probably, honestly, the worst event that I've ever seen. But yeah, I didn't look at this event and go, oh my god, there aren't enough women, because there were plenty of women in the games themselves. Again, like 75% of the protagonists we saw featured in these teasers and trailers were women. I felt like there were plenty of women being highlighted and featured and had focus put on them, but because a few didn't get up on stage, even though most people think that the people getting on stage are actually kind of cringe, because we don't want to hear someone like Sam Lake, you know, shoot bad jokes back and forth with the Jeff Keeley, then now there's, you know, this major problem. And of course, sexism and misogyny are still rampant in the gaming industry without giving any real evidence of that, because of course that doesn't really exist. But yes, they are putting up more articles saying the lack of women at Summer Games Fest was disgusting, and it only reinforces gaming's troubling misogyny. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.